Manchester United definitely catching the eye. 8 goals, no goals conceded. Already clear at the top of the table. Given the fact that it was West Ham and Swansea that they face in those first 2 games, how much, if anything, are you willing to read into the start that they've made?
Well, they can only beat the team that's in front of them, as they say nowadays. That's the only. They can only do their best then. I mean, Mourinho made a very good point last week, and he said, "Don't get carried away." I think they won the first 2 matches last year and finished 6th. So you're talking on early season stuff, but there's certain things you can see. I think Manchester United are better equipped this year to make a real challenge for the Premiership than they were last season.
Where are they better, do you think?
Well, they got Lukaku up front. They bought Matic in, which made a big difference to him. They brought a couple of defenders in. It's Mourinho's second season. It takes a season to figure out who you want, who you don't want, who can do it, who can't do it. And that's why he's always been, it's been seen in the papers, he's been a very, very successful second season man, because that's what you learn from it. Some teams like Conte went in this year and did in his first season, but that's unusual. It usually takes a lot of time to get the players in that you want, because all managers have a vision of what they want, and the hardest thing is to get the players in to fulfil that vision, if that's the right word. And Mourinho says himself, well, I've got the players in that I want. There's no moaning and groaning about him, saying, well, I need, like it's happened at Chelsea, for example. Conte has gone mad because he's not getting the players in. He lost Matic, so he's not in charge of the situation. I think Mourinho is in charge of the situation. I think Guardiola is in charge of the situation. They're actually getting the players in that they want, and they got rid of the players that they don't want. That's the starting point. And from what we've seen of United so far, there is a style, I call them a style, but certainly
flow to them, isn't there? They're a little bit more freedom going forward. 8 goals in the first 2 games.
I wouldn't say there was a lack of freedom. There was a lack of ability to get the goals. Matic has come in. He's made a big difference in the middle of the field. For example, they haven't had a player like that for a few years. They had various players in that position, but none of them have controlled the game as well as he has. And now you hear he's allowing Pogba and the other fellas to go forward, which is total nonsense, because you have to play in relation to where the ball is. But what he is doing is holding on the ball, which gives Pogba a chance to get into position to receive it. So he's helping him there. So I think my take on Pogba is, don't give Pogba any responsibility on the pitch. Let him. He does his own thing in certain ways, but sometimes he goes running here and running in there. And did when he played in the middle of the field himself. He wasn't able to do it. But with Matic there, Matic controlling it there, which takes the responsibility off Pogba a lot, and therefore gets him into the game, which he couldn't do before Matic was there. But Manchester are looking better. You know, they've good goalkeeper. The defender is Jones back back fit. So I think the signs look good. I'd be surprised if they're not major contenders for the Premiership this year.
Were you happy to play with players that were devoid of responsibility when it came to that kind of thing, if they were able to produce at the other end of the pitch in such a way that would make up for it? Were there many players that you would have played with like that?
I think that's a different thing.
Luxury players.
Well, we used to call them sunshine boys. Sunshine boys were when you were playing, say, in a tight match at home where you're expected to win and you were a goal down. Now you needed players, because the crowd are getting onto you. Now you needed players with the moral courage to say, I'm going to continue on the ball. The sunshine boys would disappear. Right, they wouldn't be there. Now, if you're winning 3-0 at home and it was 10 minutes to go, the sunshine boy would say, give me the ball. Couldn't get enough of it. They used to say he wants to eat it now. But when it really mattered, he'd disappear. So in my case at Leeds and I was very lucky that I played with terrific players. I played in the midfield with Billy Bremner and Eddie Gray and these lads who would take responsibility regardless of the score. Do
you think Pogba is one of those guys? One of those.
I don't think he consciously disappears, Dave, to be honest. I think he just doesn't know. I don't think he's any positional sense. You know, now you see, one time he played Manchester City. Remember they got a hiding at Old Trafford last year. He was centre midfield with Herrera or somebody in there, right? Now that is a real responsible position. He couldn't do it. He was up the left wing, he was down the left wing, he was all over the place, because he didn't know what to do. So you have to free him of the responsibility. Now he's playing on the left-hand side of midfield. So he's not in the responsible position in that Matic is in and doing the job for United. He wouldn't be able to do that. But he's got good talent. So Matic can do the responsible stuff and get it to him where he has less. He still has responsibilities, but not as much as playing the central midfield.
Before we leave United and take a quick break, John, the news was confirmed today that they've re-signed Zlatan Ibrahimovic for a new 12-month contract. He won't be fit until December at the earliest, possibly into the new year. But myself and Kevin Caban were talking in the news round earlier about what an incredible boost it could potentially be for United if they're up and around the upper reaches of the Premier League. They've gone well in Europe and they're preparing for a last 16 tie in the Champions League, and suddenly you've got this guy to come in.
Well, it depends how his fitness is after that, Dave. You know, he's getting on a bit as well. I think they're being generous and being very respectful to him for what he did last year, or was doing last year, before he was injured.
Do you think there's sentiment involved then that perhaps
shouldn't be? I think there's an element of sentiment in it that you don't normally see in football. Now, it could well be that Manchester United have plenty of money so they can afford to do it, pay him, and maybe come in at the end. But I tell you, my honest take on Ibrahimovic is that Ibrahimovic was good for Ibrahimovic when he was playing for Manchester United last year. But he wasn't actually good for the team. Now, that sounds strange because he was scoring a lot of goals. But Ibrahimovic played deep all the time, right? There was nobody that was running behind players. So when it came to him, he'd get it, and then he'd get up in the box, right? It suited him. But if you look at Manchester United when he was scoring the goals, which was great for him, there was nobody else scoring goals. So I think overall, he wasn't good for the team. Now, that sounds ridiculous when you say, well, the fella scored 20-odd goals. It has to be good for the team. But not if the others are not doing their stuff. Because what he was coming deep and pleasing himself, getting on the ball, letting it go. Sometimes he wouldn't get into the box, but he'd come up behind the ball, and he's very good, obviously very good at what he did finishing the game. But the rest of the players, there was nobody, he wasn't making any goals for anybody.
Yeah,
so there was no balance to the team. Now you got Lukaku is really up front. You know, you got Rashford up front. Lukaku doesn't come deep. He's not able to come deep and get it. But he's better for the team. I think Ibrahimovic was better for himself and got the goals. But there was nobody else scoring goals.
It'd be interesting to see if they play together. If Lukaku's ahead of him.
Well, he could, because Ibrahimovic will come deep. Yeah, he needs somebody, like last year he said, no, there's nobody making runs behind the... Well, that was part of Ibrahimovic's job to make those runs. But he never did. So he was pleasing himself. Now, to be fair to Lukaku couldn't come deep and play as well as Ibrahimovic did in that position. Yeah. Because he's a forward, he's limited in skill, but he's going to score your goals and he's going to be the spearhead for the attack. He's going to get behind and hold the ball up for players to get up. Ibrahimovic never did that. Ibrahimovic